The End by Cecilia Ahern. First of all, let me tell you what the story is not. This is not an "and they all lived happily ever after" story. It's not about lifelong friendships. There are no scenes of ladies whispering and sharing stories over cups of coffee and plates of cream cakes they swore to themselves and their weekly Weight Watchers class they wouldn't eat. There's no twist in my story. I genuinely mean it when I say it. I do not live happily ever after with the love of my life. Or anyone else, for that matter. It was my counselor's idea for me to write this story. End it on a happy note, she kept saying. Well, this is my last attempt. I'm taking her advice, though. I'm ending this story on a happy note. I'm ending it at the beginning. And so, I begin this story with the end. Feeling desolate, I looked around the empty wardrobe, its doors wide open, displaying stray hangers and deserted shelves as though taunting me. It wasn't supposed to end this way. What had only moments ago been a room overflowing with sound and tension of desperate pleas for him not to leave was now a chamber of silence. Bags had been thrown around, drawers were pulled open, clothes dumped into sacks, drawers banged shut. And then the sobs began. Quiet, whimpering sound that reminded me of when I was 5 years old, had fallen off my bicycle all alone and away from the safe boundaries of my home. The sobs I heard in the bedroom were the frightened sobs that escaped me as a child, running home sore and scared and desperate for the familiar arms of my mother to catch me, to save me, and soften my tears. The only arms now were my own, wrapped protectively around my body. My heart was alone. My pain and problems, my own. He was gone. It wasn't supposed to end like this. And so, I won't let it. The middle. Falling in love. Being in love. Those first few years of being in love, they were only the beginning. 20 phone calls a day just to hear his voice. Favoring nights in, curled upon the couch instead of going out. Eating so much you both put weight on. Existing only in the world to be with him. Seeing your future, your babies in their eyes. Becoming a part of someone else spiritually, mentally, sexually, emotionally. You see, it's all the stuff at the beginning that's important. The stuff you do naturally. The surprise presents, the random kisses, the words. And then you get lazy. And before you know it, you've moved to the middle stage of your relationship and are just one step closer to the end. But you don't think about all that at the time. When it's happening, you're happy enough living in the rut you've carelessly walked yourself straight into. You have fights. You say things you definitely mean, but afterward pretend you don't. You forgive each other and move on. But you never really forget the words that are spoken. The last fight we had was the one about who burned the new expensive frying pan. That's the one that ended it. It stopped being about the frying pan after the first 2 minutes. It was about how I never listened, how his family intruded, about the fact that he always left his dirty laundry on the floor and not in the basket, how horrible a person I was, how he didn't love me anymore. Little things like that. This fight lasted for days. I knew I hadn't burned the frying pan, and he could bet his life on the fact that he hadn't even used it over that week, and of course he didn't, seeing as I was the one who did the cooking around here, which according to him was an admission to burning the pan. Years of a wonderful relationship had turned to that. He went out both nights that weekend, and so did I. It was like a competition to see who could come home the latest, who could go the longest without calling all friends, family, and police sick with worry. When you train yourself not to care, the heart listens. You know those moments at the end of movies when people announce their undying love in front of a gasping crowd? When there's music, a perfect speech, and everyone applauds. Imagine he says he doesn't love you. There's an awkward silence, a few nervous laughs, and people slowly break away. Well, where do you go from there? That's something the movies never tell you, and not only is the moment embarrassing, it's heartbreaking. It's the moment when your best friend, the person who said they would love you forever, stops seeing you as the person they want and need to protect. A man's face looks different when the love is gone. It begins to look just how everyone else sees it, without the light, the sparkle. Just another face. It wasn't supposed to end like this. He used to get on the same bus as me. He got on one stop after and got off one stop before. I thought he was gorgeous the first day I saw him. He rose from the staircase like an angel entering the gates of heaven. He didn't see me for the first 2 weeks, but I got clever, moving to the seat next to the staircase where I knew he would see me. Eventually he saw me. A few weeks later he smiled. A few weeks on, he said something. A few weeks later, I responded. Then he took to sitting beside me every morning, sharing knowing looks, secret jokes, secret smiles. One night, he stayed on an extra stop, got off the bus with me, and asked me to go for a drink with him. And 2 months later, I was in love. Falling out of bed last minute and running with him to the same bus stop most mornings, sleeping on his shoulder all the way to work, hearing him say he had never loved anyone else in his life as he loved me, that I was the most beautiful and wonderful woman he had ever met. when you're in love, you believe everything. We shared kisses that meant something. Mm. Falling in love, being in love. Those first few years of being in love, they were only the beginning.